So my first business was the boxing club. So the hardest part for me was to get financing. It's a 5,000 square foot place, and obviously when I was in university, I didn't have a ton of money. The way I did it, and I've heard this is somewhat unique, and it doesn't happen all the time. When I was looking for space, I went in and I found a spot that I'd like. What I did was negotiate, and if anybody wants to open up a storefront location, the landlords give what's called a tenant allowance. So if you want to fix up a place, they'll give you money to do it. RioCan is my landlord, and they're the biggest landowner in Canada. So what I negotiated with them was a $30,000 tenant allowance to fix the place up. The condition is normally with the tenant allowance that you have to do all the work yourself. Or sorry, that you have to show receipts for everything that you did. They don't give you a blank check to take to the casino, essentially. So what I negotiated with them was an open tenant allowance. So as long as I opened for business, I got the $30,000 and didn't give receipts. I hear that's odd, but for me to negotiate it, it wasn't that hard. They agreed if I signed a 5-year lease. So I took that $30,000. I did all the work with friends and family, so I essentially did it myself, and took that $30,000 and bought all the equipment, and then had some money left over for marketing and to open up and launch the place. So the only challenge there was getting the bridge loan, the $30,000 upfront, and then get the check and pay it off. For the bridge loan, what I did, I was fortunate enough to work in a bank. And I just walked into the CEO's office and let him know what I was going to do and asked him to give me a bridge loan. I had to get a cosigner, obviously, so my grandparents co-signed, and that was it. So they gave me $30,000. I went and bought everything, opened up Fun Around, got the tenant allowance, paid everything off, and was able to open a gym with zero startup capital of my own. So I hear that's somewhat unique. I did it fairly easily, but that's my story. So. At the end of the day, there's ultimately always a hiring manager who made the profile for that position. Do you have a better chance just applying online than actually going and finding out who that hiring manager is? Meeting them and learning a bit about them, even asking for a lunch or something like that. That may be ambitious, but making that introduction first will do nothing but help. So I think lots of the times they'll probably say, in our bureaucracy, the channel is you have to apply through the website, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's a person making that decision. So if they know you instead of that stack of resumes that they get, I think that'll do nothing but help your chances.
When you're creating a resume, think of the skills that they're asking for in the position as well, because you have to kind of think like a computer. So at my office, the HR professionals go through, but they're searching based on keywords and things like that. So those resumes are going to come to the top. They're going to review those, and then, as Matt says, if you know somebody or you've made an attempt to get into the organization and somebody says, oh, watch out for that resume, then that's going to help as well.
I think it depends as well what size of organization you're dealing with, because something, a small startup is who you know, because, a need comes up, a project, whatever, we need someone who can do this. They won't even write a job description, certainly not a formal job posting. They'll say, oh, I know someone, he interviewed me, he wrote a paper, I know someone, she's really great. And then the connection's there. But certainly in larger firms where there's a very specific process where it has to be posted externally for a certain amount of time, and then that's where, the don't get discouraged part certainly comes in, because I certainly witnessed it in HR at Simpatico quite a lot, that a job would come up. We knew already who was going to fill the job, but the corporate requirements were that we had to post it externally for a certain amount of time, and then we had to but meanwhile, and there may have been some really good resumes that came in who were also certainly capable of performing that job function, but we already had someone earmarked for it. So that's where but meanwhile, like you said, that your resume's in there, because then when something else comes up, you might be chosen. So if the process is go through the website, then by all means do it. Trying to then sort of circumvent that and make a personal connection, you're just going to really turn someone off. So I think in that sense, it's really respect then what the what the procedure of that particular company is.
Yeah, one of the ideas that I would recommend, rather than going into the office with your resume, is to have a friend or a family member that works in the organization pass your CV on to the hiring manager. I can tell you from our experience in the internet bubble, where we were fighting like hell for talent, what our good employees, the moment they came to us and said, here's a resume for a friend of mine who's looking for a job, we would not only hire them, but we looked at it as we were rewarding our current employee. So I would encourage you guys to look at that as an option.
And sometimes your friends can make money off it, right? If there's an internal at Halogen, they have a referral bonuses for people who are referring employees, so.
Sounds like we want to use then multiple channels, or we certainly don't be limited to, the official human resource channel if it's the most appropriate one, then certainly, but looking at networking or contacting people directly, then it's really important.
Like I said, everyone on the resume has people skills as a quality and a skill set. In the interview process, you can really, professional interviewers are much better than I at measuring, your people skills in an interview. For me, I always like to look at it and say, let's give this person a chance. Let's see how they can do. Their people skills will shine, or they will expose themselves in the work environment. But someone who's a people person is if on their resume it says they were in the team environment, it shows that they could work together in a group. All these kinds of little things that show, like, we'll put it this way, in the work environment, there's a lot of teamwork, there's a lot of group work. People with good people skills will stand out.
Another suggestion I have is if you have any references, really testimonials to your people skills, whether it's from employers or volunteer organizations involved with campus organizations. If you have anything like that you can get, the whole references available upon request. Yeah, of course. But if you can fit a little bit, even if it's just a couple of sentences, to pull out of that, and giving credit to where it comes from. Who that person is, because I think at first glance when you see that, oh wow, that's, it really substantiates all those people skills claims at the top of the CV to show that, your advisor, for a course or the chair of a particular volunteer organization that is known, it says this about you, then that's going to help you rise to the top of the pile.
So I even work with people now. We have a social responsibility committee that I sit on at work, and there's still people that show up for the first meeting so they can put it on their resume, and then they never come back again. So you have to really demonstrate, like, I was sat on this committee, or I was in this club, and this is what we did, and just so you can demonstrate it.
I just wanted to add to what Rebecca mentioned, those testimonials. LinkedIn does have a part of building your profile, and LinkedIn allows you to invite people to give testimonials to your past performance, so that's a really effective place to do that too.
Coming out of school, I probably wasn't as focused as I should have been. But when I went to China and I saw a generation of people that were going to compete with me in 10 years' time, I really focused. It was absolutely world-shattering to me. Like I said earlier, I was from Cornwall, came to school in Ottawa. My idea of travel was to go to Montreal with my buddies. When I picked up and went overseas, I saw how the world really operated. I saw poverty for the first time in my life, and I also saw a hungry generation that was coming. Anyways, it was wonderful. So I had experiences that I find almost comical to this day. For example, I was telling Matt earlier that I did a beer commercial in front of 30 million people. So while that's not on my bio on any of my companies, but it's sure of a nice conversation piece. So anyways, I would encourage anyone to try that. Especially if you're a small town person, you get out, you meet new people, wonderful experience. I mean, granted, you don't make any money, but it's an experience that sets you apart from people. And in this market, as the world has globalized and gotten flatter, I can tell you this, companies are looking for people that know how to do business in new markets. So you should consider it. I recommend it to a lot of people anyway. So
I had spent a year in Japan teaching as well, same thing, I highly recommend it because, traveling is one thing, and I had done a fair bit of traveling throughout university. I mean, I camped through Eastern Africa for almost 2 months. I certainly had other travel experiences, but living and working in another country is something completely different, and it does really enhance those skills that you can build your resume with when you come back to Canada or wherever you end up to look for, to start your career. But it is certainly, it's a life-changing experience. And it's certainly much harder to do later when you have your career and a family. You can't pick up and go overseas for a year. So now is certainly the time of your life to do it.
yeah, that's right. Now when I travel to China, I fly in and basically I do 2 days of meetings and then I fly out. You don't get to experience any of the new culture.
Well, I guess it depends what position you be like, if you're applying for a PR job or something like that. As far as promotional skills, at the end of the day, any company that you get hired into, and Mike alluded this before, you want to be an asset to the company. So I think having promotional skills is fantastic. And if you can demonstrate some of the value that you've brought in through some of your promos, I think that'd be great on a resume. So if you can delineate how you actually increase revenue or increase impressions or something like that to a potential employer. For me, if we had a new PR position opened up and someone came in and was like, I put together X campaign which generated this many impressions, got either this many clicks, or sold X number of dollars, opposed to somebody who didn't, that would be a fantastic and something that would stand out as a case study on your resume. So I think that's probably the best way to take what you've done and really demonstrate the value that you've created. Yeah, if you can make some sort of case study and really demonstrate to an employer that, like, here's the value, and I'm going to bring this to your team, I think that would go a long way, more so than just what you said, like daily tasks. I don't think an employer would really care about that much, but if you can demonstrate that you've worked on X or done Y, and it caused X number of revenue or whatever, I think that's where you'll get the most benefit out of displaying that.
People that have the ability to sell products and promote products, in employers' minds, well, here, there's someone that can help my company make more money. And like I said, you think you're interviewing for a job, but the employer is looking for someone that's going to help build the organization. So for me, I would figure out how to get that as a topic of discussion with anyone.